everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good middle of the night, depending on where you're tuning in from. Thank you to each and every one of you for joining us today. Today is the first day of Citizen Development Week, and a little while ago we had a great kickoff session, and there is an outstanding lineup of sessions on deck throughout the rest of the week. So make sure you check those out as well. My name is Georgina Dunks, and I will be helping moderate the panel discussion today, as well as partake as a panelist to hopefully share some insights into citizen development's role in empowering digital transformations throughout organizations. Before we begin, I want to welcome everyone again from wherever you're joining us from and share a couple notes and reminders for the session. We encourage active participation from our audience throughout the session, so please feel free to submit any questions using the chat feature, and we'll do our best to get to them during the Q&A based on our availability. Also, a note that today's session will be recorded and available on demand to view later on the CDW website. Now, joining me today, we have an amazing group, each bringing their own wealth of knowledge and expertise to our discussion. So allow me to introduce them quickly, and they'll share a little bit more about themselves. So to get myself out of the way, like I said, my name is Georgina Dunks. A little bit more about me. I have spent time creating and standing up a citizen development program and leading that, working to support those citizen development initiatives and transformation efforts at scale at TDS, which was an organization of over 10,000 employees. Next, I want to introduce Abhishek Garg. He is a citizen development enthusiast and an analyst from Quadrants, a global research and consulting team. So, Abhishek, can you share a little bit more about yourself?
Thanks for having me on the panel discussion today to the CW team, and thanks for moderating the session, Georgina. Uh, Welcome all the panelists and our viewers from the world. And as Georgina suggested, I work at Coder Knowledge Solutions. It is a global advisory firm, and I'm working as an analyst here for 3 years. And I specialize in the application development domain, specifically low-code application development. Yeah.
Great. Next, we have Yaravi Cardoze. She is award-winning transformation leader who is currently the global head of customer success at Wizzy Platform. So please share a little bit more about yourself.
Thanks, Georgina, and glad to be here. I'm joining today from Panama, the hot Panama in Latin America. So good morning, good evening, and good night, everybody. I have been working and leading digital transformation for over 10 years, first at technologies globally and then the Panama Canal. I define myself also as a city enthusiast and sponsor in all the organizations that I have been. So glad to be here.
Great. Happy to have you. And last but definitely not least, Jessica Dollavera. She has been a load code developer and analyst and is currently the head of education at Mission Critical, helping to develop and define an entire curriculum to train citizen developers. So help share a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you, Georgina. Yes, I am the head of education currently at Mission Citizen, where we're focusing on upskilling and training more professionals so they're better aware of what the citizen development movement is. And we're just focused on awareness in this space. So yes, I did come from a space of development, but we came from a space of development when no code and low code was still new, and we learned a lot of things about teaching people. So after my time at Forrester Research, where we covered low code development platforms and the Citizen Development Initiative. I think it's time for more people to become aware. And so that's what we're focused on, citizen development education.
Great. That sounds fascinating. So, on to our session. Our session today delves into the core principles of citizen development and its specific role in simplifying digital innovation processes. It explores how citizen development initiatives can help facilitate collaboration between business and technical teams, the challenges that might be encountered, how effective leadership strategies can help foster that innovation, and additionally, it examines the necessary organizational structures and governance frameworks that might be needed for successful integration to really help harness that digital transformation. So let's move on to our discussion. For our panelists, I will ask our questions, and then please feel free to jump in. These are really designed for us to have a discussion. They're not for one particular one of us. I want us to each weigh in as we would like to. So let's kick things off with our first question. Our first question is, what defines citizen development's essence in simplifying digital innovation within organizations?
Well, first, I can jump in and say that there's nothing simple about digital innovation in the first place. But when we look at the current options before we take into account citizen development, the way IT handles the way IT handles innovation, it's a bit one-sided. There is definitely a need for expertise from other parts of the organization. So, one of the primary parts of citizen development that brings ease and simplification to the digital innovation process would be that expertise, that business expertise, the collaboration in problem solving. It brings about a sense of ownership, and pretty much it brings more of, or I should say, releases some of the stress or the strain that may be given to the technical departments that may make them feel a little bit more overwhelmed or stressed by the process of digital innovation. So I would say primarily collaboration and problem solving is one of the main aspects that simplify digital innovation with citizen development.
I would like to continue with the points that have been mentioned by Jessica. I agree that business or citizen developers have a better understanding of the actual business needs that are required by the customers of a certain company, and they are able to understand those needs and convey them in a better way. So they have a better possibility of conveying those requirements and needs in a better technical format, even though they are not technical users, but they are understanding it properly, and in a technical format they're able to explain the actual developers what they actually need and how well it needs to be executed. So in terms of the agility and innovation and the collaboration that needs to be there between the business side and the technical side, they act as a primary mode of communication between the consumers and the developers.
I think those are great. So often when we have new technologies, companies are telling us, like, oh, yeah, you could use it for this or this or that. And they're sort of like random examples. And you're like, that sounds cool, but could we use that? Um, and if you have, a pulse on your actual organization, or you have that community of users that you're in touch with, like, you don't have to try to guess at how we could use this. Like, you have that perfect community where you have those users where you could ask or have that test group of, like, how could we utilize this technology and really reap the benefits of those tools that you spend money on. And you don't have to have using AI to write your emails for you. Like, that's not a very powerful use of the tool, things like that.
I think that
Uh-huh.
one of the, let me jump in here because I think there is something also very important about having the power in the users regarding when you are organizationally speaking in a journey of transformation or data transformation or digital innovation. And it's about, and from my experience, is about, is so, generally is so complex and large, the whole program, the whole journey of transformation, that sometimes users feel very disgregated from the overall strategic effort, you want to say somehow. So it's like, okay, we're gonna be now, I don't know, a more data driven organization, for example, and we're gonna do all the machine learning and all the data science, yada yada, which is amazing for the organization. But in your day to day, when you're sitting in your computer and you have issues in your department or you have needs that are very close to you, users feel that, okay, that is good for the company might not get to me anytime soon, and I need to solve things now, right? That are to my reach. So I think it's a balance between, a balance act between the whole overall innovation, transformation, digital, what the big journey that the company is taking, and enabling business users, to solve short-term, mid-term things that might allow them to be more optimal, to make their life easier in a governed way, right? It cannot be crazy and everybody's doing everything, but in that, if you govern that way, you will be able, as a transformational leader, or as an executive, to have a path that is solving the short, mid-term things, and a long-term, and a more long-term strategic path at the same time, which is very healthy for the organization, in my opinion. So that's my 2 cents there. Mhm.
Yeah. I think that actually leads very well into the next question. Um, how do citizen development initiatives bridge the gap between business needs and technical requirements in digital transformation?
Well, that was precisely what I was talking
Yeah.
about recently. So I think as well, I can add a little because I already talked more about that. But adding to that, there is one thing that I believe we should take all in consideration, right? And is that all organizations focus on IT. I have been in IT a couple of times, right? To make things happen, and not necessarily, the capabilities there. IT will not grow exponentially in any organization to fulfill all the different needs. They gotta operate, they gotta change, they gotta manage, and they have also to support the transformation journey. So, with that as an area, I think is an area for many organizations. If the organization wants to speed up on solving, as I mentioned, things that are at the hand of people that know the business, know the processes, right? And very important, as well as understanding the tools for citizen developers, and understanding the capabilities of the technology, is how to improve processes, because we don't want to automate something that a process that is completely broken or is not lean, right? So those abilities are in the hands of the business people, not necessarily in IT. So I believe it's a nice combination. Of course, no, but not always people see it that way, because can be seen as a threat or something. But if it's well understood, I believe it empowers one and the other.
Yes.
I agree with Yarve. I believe that when when you start to pull on the expertise of your non-IT assets in your organization, you automatically bring into perspective uh, experiences in a perspective that's non-technical, which are just as important as the technical perspectives and the technical requirements. So enabling the citizen developers in your organization does start to bridge the gap, and it also does multiply your resources on your expertise in the technical uh, aspect of developing solutions, because resources are short on the IT side. They're usually overwhelmed with the mission critical objectives for the business. So you don't just bring in expertise that bridges the gap. You also multiply the resources that you have in your organization. More problem solvers solving problems in for their own environment.
I also think so many, of your citizen developers are on the front lines seeing, competitors sooner. They're seeing what's out there, what are other people doing, and they're able to react sooner, and see, like I said, that competition, where they allow you to hopefully be a fast follower. Whereas sometimes in more traditional methods, you might not be able to react quick enough to remain competitive. That's echoing what many of you have said already, but
Yeah, in my opinion, uh, digital transformation, inclusion of citizen developers is a must, as they have a vision of what the actual use case of that product will be. And many a times they themselves require some certain products which might take a long time from when it's coming from the IT. At that point of time, citizen developers can actually use these loco noco tools, as we have already mentioned, and create the products which work well enough for their internal use, and can set a benchmark or a prototype for those IT developers to move on and have a actual presentable product to the customers as well as to use within the organization. So this, I guess, improves the overall delivery time for the products, as well as the vision of the entire market, which the business developers have through the insights that they have with interaction with different users and the competitions, as mentioned earlier, is very important for the product being very good in the market and being successful in the market.
I agree. I mean, I think so. It all sounds great, right? And Matt Hubbard, hi Matt. He asked a good question in the comments. He said that he heard a surprising result of citizen development is the dramatic increase in collaboration within the business, between the business and IT. Is that our experience? And our next question is actually for our panelists: what challenges could arise in fostering collaboration between citizen developers and IT teams? So I think, us here, we're passionate and we love it. And we can, get on our soapbox and like, yes, there's benefits. How could anyone not want to do this? And on that flip coin, we know that there are challenges, or that there are um, blocks that many organizations might face while trying to implement these efforts at scale or on any sort of large base. So, what challenges, panelists, have you come across or seen or helped work through, where you've been?
So
I sorry. Uh, with my time at Forrester, I spoke to a lot of customers about some of their challenges in adopting. There is a lot of excitement about implementing a citizen development strategy in their organization, but the challenges that mostly arise, one of them were like the different levels of expertise, and the fact that most of the average employees are maybe a little bit more intimidated by the idea of something that's more technical, and the technical team may not know how to communicate with the non-technical assets to have them understand what is necessary of them. So that difference in language usually brings about a miscommunication or just a poor level of communication that may not allow for an organization to kind of hit the ground running with citizen development. So, with communication being a primary blocker between non-technical and technical people, one way to try to like overcome this is more on like education for the non-technical assets on the team, to bring them up to the level to understand some of the language, some of the terms that are being used, so they understand exactly what you may be referring to. also bringing IT teams down to, I don't want to say down to their level, but to their level of understanding what they may be saying and how that translate into what an IT member might understand or translate into a technical solution.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that is a really key component of it. Quite frankly, is from my experience, um, isn't so much of like getting the business to understand the benefit of citizen development. You might have some struggles, like why would we want to do that? But for the most part, they might be sure. Go ahead. Um, and if you have someone passionate about running that program, that they'll do that, but the IT side is really where you need to get that buy-in. You might have those teams who are dismissive of citizen development, thinking that it is, for lack of a better word, like beneath them, or that it will lead to chaos, or that these people have no idea what they're doing and they're going to break a bunch of things. Um, and I think that you're right, Jessica, and that communication is a huge piece of it. And at the end of the day, I think working towards that main goal of like, really, we're all trying to, innovate and do the best for the business, increase our productivity, or increase whatever your end goal is. And citizen development can help drive that. Really, it's like they're actually helping you out, IT teams, having less work for you. Um, and just sort of honing in on that shared mission. Um, and I do really agree, Jessica. I was sort of laughing coming from a non IT side, moving into IT. I swear that one of the best things that served me was that ability to relate to people. Like, I know these IT teams can seem kind of scary. Like, they talk in these ways, and they make you feel intimidated. Like, they're not. They're, sort of relating to those people and getting them to understand it's really not that hard once you get into it, and you can totally build these applications, or you can, once you learn how to Google the right way, you're pretty powerful and you can create some pretty awesome solutions. Um, and with some of those foundational blocks and frameworks, fostering that collaboration in its essence is a lot about communication.
I think it's about. Oh, sorry, Abby. Go ahead, because you
Yeah.
were yeah.
So I was just saying that the skepticism that IT teams mostly have about citizen developers is due to the fact they are unaware of the skills, the technical skills that citizen developers have, and maybe they think of it as a burden that what might come right back at them if they are asked to support that technical. The technical team is asked to support the citizen developers, and they might think of it as a separate burden along with their work. Moreover, the communication gap in between the technical teams, it is the developers, the technical terms that they use, and the vision that business developers have may not align perfectly with each other. And that misalignment is the cause of the skepticism that most people have in implementing citizen development. And lastly, like most of the teams who are working on digital transformation don't have the right setup for support and training for the citizen developers.
Mm-hmm.
And many a times the citizen developers are lost from where to start, where to whom they must reach out and have the proper support. Yeah.
Maybe I have to be here, the voice of. Let me change my hat and put an IT hat for a while, just to paint the picture from the other side, because sometimes it's there are things that we gotta figure out as well. I remember just arriving to do transformation and receiving, I don't know, 10, 20 requests to support applications that users built that nobody supported it, no framework, no support. The person left the company and then IT got to support it, right? So if you see it from IT perspective, It is, they have to do the whole 9 yards, right? The critical, the non-critical, and satisfy the users. And then, you have BP's manager saying, hey, you are not supporting me because this is a critical application for me, because I have been using this for my dogs since I don't remember when, and now an update came from operating system and you say you cannot support it because you didn't build it. So it's a real challenge, right? Coming from that and then asking to enable it. The main thing that in the middle is governance. Is governance and collaboration between IT and the users and the business. Sorry, and all that business power and all that knowledge of the business can be combined with a good governance, sustainability, and then the technical tools. If that combination is the way to move forward, many detractions will go away. I think that the worst fear from IT is to having more applications to support that they don't know how to support. And the worst fear from the business is have to wait, I don't know, 5 years until they get a way to be more effective and and optimize their operations. So the marriage there is between sponsorship, governance, and understanding. That there's a need. There's also gotta be sustainable, and there's also we gotta flush a lot of needs that are out there and they will not go away. Right? If we don't enable, it will happen anyway somehow.
Yeah.
So why don't work in a better collaborative way? And to your comment, Matt, about collaboration between IT and citizen developers and the business and so on. Yes, an outcome is a lot of collaboration, which is good, but it gets worse before it gets better. It's not a straight line, I have
Yes,
to say.
definitely.
And I do think, I mean, that sounds horrible, right? And everyone, that is a worst nightmare of just a sea of applications that are unsupported. And then, of course, everyone's team is like, no, that's absolutely critical for us. And I think that's why so many times citizen development might fail because people enable the tools and that's it. And people use them. And isn't that all we needed to do? But I think as people realize through, unfortunately, circumstances like that, um, that is the bare minimum that needs to happen. And when you put the framework in place, like, no, if you build an application and you need to have an owner, and if it doesn't have an owner, or you should have two owners, and if it doesn't have an owner or that person leaves, you are then responsible, and that manager, that VP needs to sign off on knowledge that this is now unsupported and this is not IT's responsibility to all of a sudden, be the owner because this person left. And there's a lot of things like that go into a well-run program. And there are things as a community, I think, that we're learning and growing from as a whole that will continue to shape well-run programs, and we're all learning from each other too. But that transparency is key. IT rightfully should be like, I don't want to support 500 homegrown applications. So that, again, that communication is totally key. Okay, to keep us, that was a great question. To keep us moving along, what leadership strategies empower citizen developers and foster that innovation that's needed?
So, Georgina, I would like to start with this. You just mentioned
Yeah.
that the citizen developer community should have two owners or more owners. So, I guess leadership acts a very crucial role over here. Promoting citizen development with all the members of your team is necessary, I guess, since as we have already discussed, that abandoning of a product is not correct and it acts as a burden on the IT team. So when we have a group of citizen developers working on a same product, same application, this means that like multiple people are there to own the application itself. And even when one might leave the organization, it will have a support. And with continued support, I guess IT will also have will not have to have the entire support on them. And moreover, this will also help to promote the vision of the company itself, the organization itself, since the leadership will be able to embed that vision and why we are actually promoting citizen development over there. So that role of leadership is very, very crucial for citizen development.
I do agree. I think that it's critical to have executive sponsorship. Um, I know it sounds like it should come from bottom to top, but I don't think that's the path because you need strong, support from the business and executive level to tie the knot and say, okay, this is a path that we are going to follow. So how we organize this to make it happen? Um, because otherwise, then you have a battle or difficult conversations between managers and directors without like an executive guideline or something that this is what should happen. And I think it's a mistake to try to study it up. Of course, it's got to be organic. We are not saying that you have to have all the framework and all the governance and all everything to start, but if you have good quick wins in the short term and you have things to show that are working, then the next step immediately is to put a casket of executive decisions over it that will ease the conversations between how to proceed. Things like selecting which tools we are going to use, which ones are going to be supported after the fact, and know how the governance is going to work, what training do people need, how many licenses are they going to access data or not. Those are critical things that needs to be agreed, not only at a tactical level but at executive level to make it a continuum, right? Even though we don't want to go through that because it's a lot of conversations, presentations, sustain, but we have to in order to have it completely covered in terms that even in the in the funnel of requests from the organization, right, in the demand funnel, it's one of the areas to consider when you have a funnel of a lot of demand and say, hey, these three or these four can be done with this citizen development formalized. This way of work is very critical at executive level to move forward.
Yeah, I agree with Yarve about leadership making executive decisions about things that the potential citizen developers don't necessarily have to think about. I think that one of the challenges is that most people can't wrap their minds around how citizen development practice fits into their everyday work, and how they'll be able to continue to provide results from what they usually do on a day-to-day basis. So I think first one challenge is internal marketing. How are we speaking about adopting citizen development? Is this to most people it seems like a whole separate job, right? How will we make this easier for people in the organization to actually adopt the practice? So, for instance, as Yarve said, templates, tools, what are we using? Make it more of an out of the box experience. So all they have to worry about is bringing their expertise to the creation of the solution, have them understanding the process of software development and things of that sort. But let's not make it so that they have to become a developer in their entirety in their selves. So I guess the leadership strategy is really to make this a guided experience, a little bit more out of the box experience, and just focus on people bringing their expertise to the table and taking those transferable experiences and translating them into what a citizen development practice would be, rather than them starting from scratch trying to figure out how to become a developer.
I think those are all great. The only tiny thing I would add, and this is a little bit more basic, and I would argue would be great for any leader, citizen development or not, is just really embracing agility and like failure. Um, so I think John and Paul both mentioned it this morning in the kickoff was that it's not going to be perfect right away. But I think any of us who have developed in the past know that that's kind of just how development goes. Like your first run is going to fail. Um, but that might not be common knowledge for people who haven't done that before. So embracing that fail hard, fail, fast, try again. And just that iterative mindset of, okay, well, what did we learn? And the next one will be better. Again, I think that's transferable to any team or any area, not just citizen development, but I think that that's critical for citizen development as well. Okay, next question is, how should organizational structures evolve to support citizen development in digital transformation?
In my experience with teaching non-technical people, I found that when I took the approach of a more structured way of training individuals, it didn't quite penetrate. But when I took the approach of just making training more conversational, less structured, less hierarchical, less, I guess, rigid, there was a little bit more of a result as far as understanding of what was happening in development. I think that organizations naturally have a hierarchy and a more structured way that they do things, which is necessary to run any organization, process, procedure. But I think that in order for organizations to adopt a citizen development practice successfully, at every level, everyone in the organization needs to be aware of what's happening in citizen development, because governance policy, for one, starts at the root of the organization, not just in citizen development or within the practice. So I'd say that organizational structures need to become as open and flexible, or in the terms that you just use, more agile, just like a citizen development practice has become more agile. Everyone in the organization needs to take on that practice. There needs to be a bit more of a change in culture where everyone is collaborating. There's cross-functional teams working together. There is, I truly believe that, and I hope this is the future of citizen development, that teams will be more hybrid, where the levels of expertise vary in the team. And by doing that, it brings everyone to some level or standard, a level of understanding on what's happening, not in just a quarantine section of the organization, but something that everyone understands on at every level of the organization.
Yeah, I agree. Gotta be, common understanding, of course, and taking your note, Georgina. I didn't mention it, but for sure, agility is is highly needed. But yeah, citizen development gotta have a shelter, gotta have a house somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Gotta be sheltered, cultivated, and embraced. Even we need overall understanding. Somebody gotta have a little house for all of that, goodness, best practices, sharing documents, templates, and everything. So
Yeah.
in my experience, it didn't have a house, so we kind of built a house under the transformation program, right? And it fit well for a while. I heard last time we were talking about some other practitioners and leaders that, some organizations shelter these efforts under the business, for example. But it all depends, it's all about people. And it all depends on how the organization drives, which area is the, let's say, in some organizations, for example, operations is a strong leader for the organization, and they have uh, a big saying in what's going to happen. And there are other organizations that finance is the one that, calling the shots. And of course, it all depends on that, and who has the more need and where are all the talent as well. It's all about people, right? If you have a lot of talent in your organization as a, I don't know, VP of marketing, and you are willing to take the chance and take the and take it on because you foresee the benefits, then you work with IT and and figure it out, and you can shelter, for example, the citizen development group, COE, whatever you want to call it, until it can, from crawling to walking. But definitely needs a house. And organizationally speaking, it depends on how the organization moves. Of course, my recommendation is always in the strongest place, where the talent is, but not necessarily, if that is not right for the organization, then gotta be in a place where it's sheltered. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that citizen development can survive without that house or that community where people can come together, learn from each other, support each other. And so, totally agree with what you're saying. Um, I want to keep us on track. So, the last question is: how can leadership promote citizen development adoption across departments and business units?
I think that a great way to start out with citizen development is to one, don't promote it at first. I think there's something in scarcity. I think that there is something in also just doing it, right? I just spoke about, making sure that the practices or the best practices of citizen development is expressed throughout the organization. But as Yarave said, you would want to start in a small controlled space. I truly believe that experimentation is something that needs to be adopted in a lot of organizations, although a lot of organizations are they're risk averse, right? So but that's a practice that needs to be taken on. And I think that taking a few people from different departments who are your go-getters, those who are happy to help, happy to solve a problem, happy to own something, and putting them on a project together to figure out what's working, actually have it an outcome from a small project can help you start to fine tune or understand what your development practice is in your organization, because citizen development is not a one size fit all thing. And by just starting off small and in a controlled space and then growing it out is a great way to first get some initial insights on what's working for you. And also just kind of show other people in the organization that there's something good going on here and that these standout folks are all stars over here doing something great. So like I said, I think that there's something in scarcity where you have part of your team doing something amazing and everyone else is curious about what's going on over here and can they be a part of it. I think that's a decent strategy to begin with, and kind of play it by ear and fine tune the process as you move along. But adoption, I firmly believe that if you force it upon people, there will be heavy pushback. And we know that change management is a large part of adopting a citizen development practice. And a lot of the times there is pushback or disinterest. So I firmly believe that just experimenting, playing around with things, and showing that there's more benefit to the actual developer than focusing so much on how it benefits the business. Language, I think, is also a very important thing to take into consideration when looking to implement the citizen development strategy.
Yeah, I actually kind of agree with what Jessica said, that taking a group of people from different departments and putting them into a sandbox kind of environment and just let them experiment with their imagination, like how we can integrate with different departments and what product can be developed. And once the other people in the organization observe that they are experimenting, enjoying themselves, building different applications and coming out with good applications, that would bring more interest into the people and promote more citizen development, as well as uh, after you observe that different kind of applications are being produced, so some kind of a reward system which just ranks them that yes, you have done something great, and this can be helpful to our organization. That acknowledgement is very necessary from the leadership, as well as the whole environment being supportive to the citizen development is a necessity for promotion of citizen development, I guess.
I agree.
Yeah, we are out of time now, but very quickly,
Yes.
I agree more. I couldn't agree more. And don't start with a big bang. Start small. Show results.
Totally.
Don't do it like a
Yeah.
big, large thing. Don't.
Yeah, for all those reasons, and growing it organically really allows you to experiment, like Jessica said, and grow it, and finite what you want to do and what will work well for your organization as well. So, as we said, sadly, even though I know that we're all passionate and could probably talk about this for the rest of the day, we are out of time. So, and at the end of our session, we want to thank you all for joining us today, and thank you to our panelists. Thanks for your contributions and your knowledge. You'll see there was a quick QR code there. We might put it in the comments as well if you have time. There's a quick survey. We appreciate your feedback. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We apologize that we didn't get to any of the questions. There were some really good ones in here. So I know I speak for myself. If you want to reach out on LinkedIn, definitely feel free to connect, ask questions for myself or any of the other panelists, and we'd be happy to chat or provide feedback. So thank you again so much, and enjoy the rest of your week, and hopefully see some of you at other CDW sessions this week. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.